Do your sentences feel choppy or disconnected? In this lesson, I'll show you how you can use linking words and phrases in English to make your ideas flow smoothly. So let's begin. Okay. The first type of linking words are called addition. Some examples are furthermore, in addition, moreover, also. Why do we use addition linking words? When we want to add information that we have just presented and we want to add some more to strengthen the idea, we use furthermore, in addition, moreover, also. I've given you some examples. The experiment was successful, period. In addition, comma, it was cost effective. All right? So consider these examples, read the sentences carefully, and you see how the highlighted linking words add more information. In addition, moreover, furthermore, in addition, moreover, and also. Okay? Let's practice because it's important for you to learn and apply your knowledge. Which of these three sentences, show addition? Which one? So I would like you to pause the video now, and then there are three linking words or phrases, if you will, as a result, however, moreover. Which one shows addition? Are you ready for the answer now? Okay. So moreover is an addition linking word, right? The data was incomplete. So that is not good. The data was not complete. It was incomplete. Moreover, the sample size was very small. All right? Did you get the answer right? Okay. The second practice. Fill in the blanks with an addition linker. Okay, the course is demanding. Moreover, in addition, it requires independent research. The method is simple. In addition, it's highly effective. She's organized. This person is really organized. She also manages her time well. So she's very good at time management, and she's also a very organized person. Okay, so you see how we use addition linking words, also called linkers if you want. All right, so that is one type. The second one is very common, cause and effect, right? Something causes something, because, since, therefore, as a result, consequently, because of, due to. These are all cause and effect linking words. Consider the examples. I've shown you 7 sentences here using these linkers, cause and effect. The experiment failed. Why? Because the equipment was faulty. All right? The data was incomplete. As a result, that's a linking word. The conclusions were limited. Now, read the sentence without the linking words and see how choppy it is. The data was incomplete, period. The conclusions were limited. It doesn't sound good, does it? The idea does not flow smoothly. So the data was incomplete, period. As a result, comma, the conclusions were limited. So much better. Wouldn't you agree? Right? So use cause and effect linking words in your writing. Okay, let's practice now. Choose the correct option. The match was canceled, blank, the rain. You have 2 choices. Which one do you think works better? Okay. All right, so I'll wait for you to complete the exercise, and I'll show you the answers in a second. All right, number 1 is because of. That was easy, right? I hope you're enjoying doing these exercises. The match was canceled because of the rain. Number 2, due to the budget cuts, several positions were eliminated. Now, remember that since is also a cause and effect linking word, but it doesn't work. Since the budget cuts, several positions were eliminated. Now, right? It's ungrammatical. It just sounds weird, but due to works. 3, the sample size was small. As a result, the findings are inconclusive. So both work. You could use therefore or as a result. So far, so good? Okay, let's keep moving. Practice 6. Identify the relationship. Is this a cause or an effect? She missed the bus, comma, blank, she arrived late. Is this a cause or a result? Blank, the traffic, she arrived late. What do you think? So it's a result. She missed the bus. All right, so that was the cause. And so she was late to class. You wanted to come to my class. You took the bus, but you wanted to take the bus, but you missed it. Then you took the next bus. So by the time you got to class, it was very late. She missed the bus, so she arrived late. Or she missed the bus, therefore she arrived late. The result. Because of the traffic, she arrived late. So that is a cause, because of the traffic. Right? Okay. Let's practice this quickly. It's addition and cause and effect together. They're all mixed up. You need to choose the right phrase. In addition, moreover, as a result, therefore. So let's do this exercise now. Pause the video. Whenever you see that pause button here, it says pause video. I'd like you to pause the video and do the exercise without seeing the answers. Okay? And then we will look at the answers together. Okay. Are you ready? Number 1 is, as a result, the results were reliable. Number 2 is, in addition, it included a large sample size. Or you could also use moreover. 3 is as a result, or therefore. 4 is in addition, or moreover. 5 is as a result, therefore. 6 is in addition, moreover. All right? Very good. Moving on. Denial of expectation. I want to take a second to honor my late dissertation advisor, my mentor, my professor at Boston University, Dr. Professor Fraser. He passed away. But this was his idea, denial of expectation. He also called them contrastive discourse markers. When something happens that we do not expect, although, even though, despite, in spite of, however, nevertheless, right? And his example, one of his examples that I loved, it was John was late in leaving. So you expect John to be late, right? To a meeting, for example. However, he arrived on time. So what is the purpose? Okay, we use these linking words to express a denial of expectation. So we use these when reality does not match what we expect. If someone is leaving late, you expect them to be late, but then they come on time somehow. Maybe they drive fast. So these are the examples. Although the task was difficult, she completed it successfully. Even though he studied hard, he did not pass the exam. Now, that is not normal. If a student studies hard, they do well, right? They pass the test, they get an A, they do really well. But this student studied very hard. Even though he studied hard, he did not pass the exam. Denial of expectation. Okay? Good? All right, you want to practice what you just learned? Fill in the blanks. Although, even though, despite, in spite of, however, and nevertheless. Okay? All right, I'm going to wait for you to finish and then I will show you the answers. That is how we learn, right? I teach you something new, you learn, you internalize the new rules, and now you're curious and say, let me apply my knowledge. All right, here we go. Number 1 is although, 2 is even though, 3 is despite, 4 is however, 5 is in spite of, 6 is nevertheless, 7 is despite or in spite of. They're both acceptable in this context. 8 is however, 9 is although or even though. They're both acceptable. And 10 is Nevertheless, the task was difficult. Nevertheless, she completed it successfully. All right. How did you do? Did you do well? If you made a few errors here and there, do not worry. Remember, you're a student, you're learning, and it's quite okay. It's quite all right. I would even say that it's normal to make errors, right? Okay. Now so we learned denial of expectation and we learned cause and effect. How about using both of them? This is a real test of your knowledge. So your options are although, because, however, as a result. Fill in the blanks, all right? Pause the video now and wait for me to show you the answers. Okay, 1 is although, 2 is as a result, 3 is however, which is a denial of expectation, and number 4 is because. Contrast. Okay, this is also a linking word. There are phrases while, whereas, unlike, in contrast, on the other hand, and conversely. All right, what is the purpose? We show contrast, two ideas side by side, right? But they're not similar. Okay, so some examples are, while traditional methods are reliable, comma, modern techniques are faster. Now, we can talk to somebody from across the oceans in real time. WhatsApp, just one phone call, right? In the past, we used to use rotary phones and it took forever to connect. Whereas, unlike, in contrast, on the other hand. Okay? All right, match the sentences. There are halves. While the first option is affordable, comma, right? Only a half a sentence. And then in the right column, you have A, B, C, the rest. Can you match them up? The numbers and the letters. Okay, pause the video now. You see the pause button there. Pause it. And we'll go over the answers. Shall we? Look at the answers now. Okay, here. 1 is B, 2 is A, and 3 is C. Okay, now let's try. Remember, contrast, denial of expectations, and contrast, although, while, however, nevertheless. I need you to pause the video and complete the exercise, please. Although the sample was small, comma, the results were significant. 2. While the sample was small, the results were consistent across groups. 3. The method is efficient, however, it is expensive. The method works, it just costs a lot of money. The method is efficient, nevertheless, it remains widely used. Okay, clarification linking words. In other words, that is to clarify. When do we use clarification linking words? When we need to clarify something, when we need to help the reader understand our idea. Because if we don't use them, then the reader may misunderstand our intended meaning. The policy is inefficient. The policy is not good, doesn't work, it's bad. In other words, it wastes resources. See, the reader understands. Oh, I see. That's why you're saying the policy is inefficient. Okay? He missed the deadline. That is, he submitted the work late. The reader understands. The results were inconclusive. To clarify, no clear pattern emerged. Right? Now, let's try the clarification exercise now. In other words, that is to clarify. You have 8 sentences with blank spaces. All right, so fill in the blanks. Pause the video now. Pause it. One is in other words. 2 is that is. 3 is to clarify. 4 is that is. 5 is to clarify. 6 is that is. 7 is in other words. And 8 is in other words. Okay? All right. 6. The sixth type is illustration. For example, for instance. They both mean the same. When you introduce an idea, as a writer, you need to give the reader examples. So a good way to introduce an example is to begin the sentence with, for example, comma, and then you give the example. Okay? We need illustration linking words because illustration introduces examples to support an idea. So when the reader reads, for example, or for instance, she knows that, okay, now you're giving her an example. Many students struggle with time management. For example, they miss deadlines, right? And it happens to me all the time. Students say, can I get an extension, Professor Varsi? I'm sorry, I missed the deadline. Several countries face water shortages, right? Potable water is a rarity in some countries. For instance, regions in Africa are affected. People do not have clean drinking water. Okay, let's practice now. Choose the best example. You have for example and for instance. There are 8 sentences. Have fun doing this exercise. I hope you're enjoying the lesson so far. Okay, let's do this. Pause the video. Complete the exercise. This shouldn't take you a long time. This one is easy. Just use for example or for instance. Okay? All right, so 1 is for example, 2 is for instance, 3 is for example, 4 is for instance, and then 5 is for example, 6 is for instance, 7 is for example, 8 is for instance. There isn't really any difference, just so you're not confused. You could use them interchangeably. Like many students struggle with time management. You could say, for example, they often submit assignments late. You can also say, for instance, they often submit assignments late. So they're the same. All right? Okay. Intensification. What is intensification, you ask? In fact, as a matter of fact, on the contrary, to express a purpose. Intensification makes an idea stronger. It makes it more powerful, more forceful. Let's look at an example. The task is not easy. In fact, it's extremely challenging or demanding. He did not ignore the problem. As a matter of fact, he addressed it immediately. Okay? All right. Okay. Now practice. Choose wisely. Choose carefully. In fact, as a matter of fact, on the contrary. There are 3 sentences. I'd like you to fill in the blanks using those linking words. Pause the video now. Okay, number 1 is in fact. Number 2 is also in fact, or as a matter of fact you could use. It's the same, right? They're both acceptable. And 3 is on the contrary. Some argue the policy failed, but that is not true. On the contrary, it achieved its main objective. It did achieve its purpose, its main objectives. Okay? Very good. Final mixed challenge for you. All categories. Yeah, I wanted to, test your knowledge of everything you've learned so far. Do you remember? Addition, clarification, intensification, cause and effect, denial of expectation. All right, so in addition, although, as a result, for example, however, in contrast. Can you fill in the blanks using these linking words? Pause the video now. Okay, this is the last exercise, and then I'll leave you with a challenge. All right, complete the exercise, and here are the answers. Ready? Number 1 is in addition, 2 is however, 3 is as a result, 4 is for example, 5 is in contrast, 6 is although. All right? So far so good? We've covered a lot of ground today. You learned so many different types of linking words and phrases. Okay, so as I always do, let me leave you with a comment challenge. I look forward to reading your comments, so please do. It's important for me to know that you're learning, and if you have any questions, you can always ask me. I need you to write 7 sentences about your studies, work, daily life, anything that you could think of, your relationship, 1 for each category, right? Remember, go all the way to the beginning of the lesson. We started with addition, and there were others too, right? There were so many: denial of expectation, classification, cause and effect, intensification. Use one linking word from today's lesson. For each category, just use one linking word. In the comments, I need you to write complete sentences, grammatically complete sentences. I'll read them personally, and then I'll give you my feedback. All right? Thank you for watching. And I look forward to reading your comments. I'll see you in the next video. Okay?